everyone, and welcome back to the Water Online Show, powered by Water Online, the leading online destination for the water and wastewater market. I am your host, Travis Kennedy, and today, I don't know if you've heard about this subject that's been going around the circuits. It has to do with contaminants and maybe four little letters that you may or may not have heard of that sort of headline that discussion. Those letters are none other than PFAS. That's right, PFAS has been at the top of mind of many industry professionals and a lot of you out there. That is just one part of the contaminants that municipalities across the country and in many places across the world are faced with trying to navigate how to treat. And a lot of that comes down to what are the limits. And there is a shifting landscape when it comes to what specifics relate to those questions. So today's episode, we're going to actually be tackling that issue that's at the top of mind of a lot of the utilities out there that I mentioned, and that centers around navigating a rapidly shifting federal drinking water landscape. And it is complicated with increasing regulatory pressure and looming deadlines around contaminants of concern like our friend PFAS. Municipal leaders are being asked to make high-stakes decisions, often with incomplete information and, of course, evolving guidance. It seems like we get new guidance almost every single week. So how do you move forward with confidence in an environment that feels anything but certain? We're about to give you the answers, or at least some direction, which is more than what's out there right now. That's why you tune in to the Water Online Show, to help you try and make some of these decisions and give you the information you need from the industry experts that know. So joining us today is none other than Paris Neofotistos. He is the CEO and president of AqueoUS Vets, a company that is at the forefront of advanced treatment solutions. Paris, welcome to the Water Online Show.
Yeah, thanks for having me today, Travis.
So let's dive right in because we have a lot to get to. But I'm curious if you could answer this question, and it's an open-ended one that's going to leave us a lot of landscape to cover, and I hope that's okay. But if we're looking ahead, I want to get an idea from you to help guide our discussion here. What specifically, and this can be many things, what has the potential to change in the industry over the next several years, especially when the deadlines that are approaching that address contaminants like PFAS or seem to be coming up pretty fast and then getting delayed and then getting moved up and sort of all over the place. So really, at a high level, what has the potential to change in the industry over the next several years as you see it?
Yeah. Number one, I mean, we're seeing an increased acceleration of delivery of treatment projects. So plants are trying to catch up. The deadlines are approaching, right? And so the plants are trying to meet the regulatory requirements, and they're trying to do that on a quicker time frame than most regulation out there.
Sure.
We're also seeing increase in water reuse projects that require treatment around this. Agencies that need to bring wells online for new users or stop purchasing other sources. So this is obviously something that comes up during that process. We're seeing a lot of requests to have shorter delivery options for our systems. We're also seeing constraints in the market. A lot of the filtration system providers are projecting longer lead times. So you couple this increased demand with, the capacity in the industry, and you're starting to see, and the timelines that are coming up, you're starting to see that. There's also things that are outside of our industry that are causing competition for pressure vessels. So data centers and other industries are actually consuming vessels that would go towards these applications. So there's a certain number of facilities that can make these type of vessels. So you're seeing that competition in there. And then just even some of the tactical stuff like long lead times for valves, media, and other items that are causing projects to extend in time frame.
Really, the shorter delivery options is something really at the forefront of a lot of the utilities out there, because it almost seems like a necessity at this point. I want to come back to that, but first I want to talk to you about water reuse. How prominent is that in terms of being an alternative or perhaps secondary way to face some of the challenges that these utilities are up against?
Yeah, it's a good question. It's probably not directly related. It's tangential because a lot of utilities are looking to inject aquifers, for example, with water. So think about an aquifer. You got a lot of straws in the ground pulling the water out.
Yeah.
And then you have this wastewater that you're basically dumping somewhere and you're not getting beneficial reuse. We're seeing a lot more applications where utilities are getting the water to, let's call it drinking water standards, re-injecting aquifers so that you can replenish that source of supply. Part of that process requires advanced oxidation and filtration systems like ours that can go along for making sure that the water that goes in the ground is cleaner than what's already in there.
That's interesting because I know that water reuse is becoming more and more a part of almost every systems and process across the globe. It's interesting to see how it's affecting municipalities here domestically in the United States. We can come back to that, but I do want to ask a question real quick about AqueoUS Vets specifically. You had touched on this when it relates to shorter delivery times, but for AqueoUS Vets specifically, how has the company reacted to the changes thus far in terms of, say, manufacturing or operational capabilities? What are we talking about, and what are we seeing there?
Yep. So we had anticipated the increase in demand, and we expanded our manufacturing footprint in 2023. We acquired a facility and expanded it in Jacksonville, Florida. So this basically gave us a manufacturing footprint on both coasts so that we can cost effectively deliver systems and solutions throughout the country. We also have some really strong relationships with vessel manufacturer partners. So those relationships, plus in Jacksonville, we can actually build our own vessels now. So we can provide the complete scope of work in-house. Another part of this, which is not in the manufacturing side, it really just gets more to the people side and process, is streamlining our concept to commission approach. So helping the end users and engineers from the beginning of the design, not trying to just do a cookie cutter, here's our standard system, make it work, really working with them to, put a solution that fits their needs. We're also investing in a lot of resources around application engineering, project management, engineering. So we're trying to shorten up submittal approvals, get long lead time items on order quicker. So we're trying to compress the schedule from the time you give us an order to the time we get to a delivery and an operation of the system. We're trying to look at every place where there's waste, and we're trying to compress that. So again, where we see the industry going the other direction because of demand, we're actually trying to move the other way. So that's just a little bit more of an investment there. The other piece of this gets to operational for the customer. We actually are designing the system so that when it arrives on site, it's easier to install. So whereas you can get a system from somebody and it may take weeks to get it all put together, we fit it up in our facility so that actually everything it works, right? So when it comes on site, it's like a Lego or a Rector set. You assemble it. We've had customers within 3 or 4 hours, typically, they can assemble a system and get it ready on site. So they're not using expansion joints. They're not having to do, welding or other types of work in the field. They're getting a system that's ready to just assemble and get it operational.
Never want somebody that isn't certified in welding out there in the field welding things together. So I can understand why they would want to defer that to the manufacturer and the solutions provider. What kind of feedback are you hearing from the field around how you're able to actually shorten those times that would typically be seen as a delay in project management?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, as a CEO, I've gone out and visited with a lot of our customers, and I went to a site in Denver a few months ago where we have 42 of our vessels out in this facility. It's a huge facility. And the feedback directly from the contractor was, we thought this was going to take weeks and weeks to get it all assembled. We had all the trucks staged for all the tanks and everything. And literally within less than a week, everything was installed and assembled within the building, right? So they had to also bring this in a building. So, just the voice of customer that we're hearing how this impacted them positively. And again, sometimes if they're not used to working with us, they're not familiar with that approach of how is it going to really work the way we think it's going to work. And, so I've received very positive feedback from the contractors and customers that have received our stuff in the field.
Are they surprised by it, or is it something that you give them a foregone notice of like, hey, we're going to move a little faster. The quality is going to be just as good, if not better, but we're going to move a little faster? Or are they surprised and they're saying, holy, I can't believe this is ready already? Like, are they able to be ready to receive the solution?
Yeah, they're ready, but like you said, they were planning for a lot longer time frame, and then when they were pleasantly surprised. So again, that's a way to reduce cost and reduce timeline to get systems installed in the field. So especially when you're working with cranes and inside buildings, every day you have those on site, it costs you money and it costs you time, right? So.
In a world of evolving regulations and expectations, when you get a pleasurable surprise, a very nice surprise, that's always good and makes your day and makes your week, and also sometimes makes your year, depending on what solutions being installed there. So speaking of municipalities, I'm curious to get your input on this. What can municipalities do to ensure that they are approaching this mandate, say the PFAS mandate, with all the data they need to actually succeed, do it well, and do it to the best of their capabilities for the sake of their constituents?
Yep. One thing on our side, we've put together tools, and we've given, we have steps to help municipalities get their arms around being compliant, whether it's PFAS or other contaminants of concern. But if I were to summarize it, I'd say number one, understand the timeline.
Yeah.
So confirm the need to be compliant, do your testing, and if you have to be online by 2031, knowing that from the time you say go, it may be 30 plus months to the time you have a system operating. We're already in the middle of 26, so you do the math, right? There's not a lot of time to really get there. Understand your gaps, right? And what the treatment options are. Where could you face non-compliance? What's in my water, right? Obviously, everybody's water is unique. And so you have to make sure you're choosing the right media. You have the right design, the head loss is appropriate so that you can retrofit your sites accordingly. Funding, I know this is a big word. Industry is always underfunded, right?
It's been brought up. Yeah.
I mean, what are the costs going to be? There's resources out there in terms of education and funds, but I don't think anybody out there is going to get their project 100% funded from just some third party means. And so understanding where you're going to get your funding is important. And then getting back to piloting and evaluating what media you're going to use, because there's the capital portion up front, but then you have this, let's call it 25 plus year operating expense for the system. And so you want to make sure you're picking the right media, that it's going to last the longest. It's going to give you the best performance, to remove that contaminant in the water quality matrix that you have.
So I'm curious with AqueoUS Vets. I mean, it is a space that a lot of solutions providers are leaning into, simply because of the just subject to the volume of the need. Right. So I am curious from AqueoUS Vets standpoint, what would be, say, the top 2 or 3 reasons for a municipality to explore working with AqueoUS Vets, keeping completely separate who else might be out there that are claiming to be able to treat their contaminants to a certain degree. So keeping, I guess, competitors out of it. AqueoUS Vets specific, what are some of the strengths that you like to convey to a potential customer that conveys that you're able to help them with their contaminant issues?
Yep. No, it's a good question. I mean, our value proposition is around concept to commissioning. So we work with our customer from the initial design all the way through deployment, right? So we're trying to make sure we put a system together from a design, engineering, manufacturing, installation, long-term operation to get the lowest total cost of ownership. We're not stuck to a certain media. We don't compromise on that, and we try to make sure that we are putting the right media in there and then designing a complete solution that's cost competitive for the customer. The other thing is we call it our 4 tenets of vessel design, and I don't want to get too wonky technically here, but
what are they? Are you able to describe them?
Yeah. So we're not a media company trying to sell media, and the vessels are an afterthought. So we want to make sure that we are, again, putting together that total solution that's going to provide the lowest cost of ownership. So there's corrosion management. So the design of our system is following NACE guidelines, and we want to make sure that we're minimizing long-term corrosion through the way we design and manufacture our system. There's the pressure loss through the system. So you think about energy, right? The more pressure loss you have through a system, the filtration system, the more energy you consume. So making sure our designs are sound so that you get the optimal treatment while minimizing pressure loss. And then just also a design that's going to optimize that media use to lower that OpEx. And then the last thing is you have to maintain and operate the unit. So making sure if you have to replace a part, you don't have to actually remove the media. There's no confined space entry to maintain the system. So these are all things that we've designed into our system to make sure that it's easy to deploy, but it's also going to have longevity in the field. And then I think the other piece would just be, I mentioned the media agnostic. So looking at whether it's ion exchange, carbon, or other novel media is just looking at what's going to be ideal for that customer and making sure that we're putting that, helping them make the best decision around that for their application.
So you had mentioned earlier about, when it comes down to funding. And one thing we've been known to say here at this show is that my co-host for some episodes, Kevin Westerling, who's the editor here at Water Online, we've always said that we've never, ever come across an overfunded utility or municipality. Never happened. And most utilities and municipalities like to save on three things: time, money, and energy. And you would just hit on all three of those things. So if I'm a utility, a water utility or water municipality or water company out there, I'm going to look for your expertise here. Lead me a little bit. Let's say I'm a little behind in trying to explore what I need to do to actually get started to either test or treat or whatever. I'm a step or two behind. What do I do first?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, there's a couple ways to look at it. So there's the classic, I go out and put debt out in the market so that I can fund my project, right? I get a bond that pays for it, or which then goes into, I need to raise my rates to to pay off the bond. That's like the classic way. Then there's ways how do I offset that? Instead of doing 100% of a bond, is there government, state, local, whatever funding that I can go for? There's the SRF funding, but that's starting to go away or dry up. There's the IIJA, which I think is expiring this year, the money from the Infrastructure and Jobs Act. So people are trying to piece things together, and it's not always 100%. I can get it from one source. There's also procurement mechanisms that people are using. They're using like CMAR and other types of, innovative ways to, design and build projects out there. So the classic approach is I hire a consulting engineer, we put a design out there, we put it out to bid, a contract, we get a bunch of contractors to bid it. We have specified manufacturers like AqueoUS Vets, and then we go through that cycle, whereas now they're trying to compress even that schedule through innovative procurement mechanisms. So there's the funding side, which gets to, there's no magic bullet out there. A lot of it is just trying to figure out what works best for that utility. And then there's the actual procurement mechanisms that utilities are using to try and save costs on the overall delivery of the solution, but also compress schedule as well.
Makes sense. There's a lot to think about and a lot to try to get straight in your own head. It's good to have companies out there and industry leaders out there that are able to offer some expertise and just some direction out, because it's vastly needed. Going back to AqueoUS Vets specifically, so looking forward, where does AqueoUS Vets see the industry going, and how is the company positioning itself for the future, whether that future is for the rest of 2026 or looking ahead to 2027, 2028?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. I think maybe one place is everyone talks about the four-letter word. You said PFAS, right? And the EPA just last month put out an announcement on a draft. They call it the sixth contaminant candidate list. That's a mouthful. So it's the CCL6. So these are new contaminants for treatment, which again, we're talking about pharmaceuticals, maybe some other shorter chain PFAS compounds, microplastic, and disinfection byproducts. So again, making sure that we have solutions to address these emerging contaminants when they come out there, especially the pharmaceuticals. That's been a big thing for a long time. I've been in this industry for almost 30 years, and pharmaceuticals in the environment and in your sources, that's been a big topic. And so sounds like these may be tackled as something in the future. We're also seeing that surface water treatment. So a lot of the systems we do are for groundwater or smaller to mid-sized communities. You're starting to see surface water treatment requiring larger vessels become more of a need in the future. The other thing we're trying to do is there's a lot of people researching novel medias, right? So I think everyone knows ion exchange and carbon, right?
Sure.
But there's a lot of research being done to bring better, medias out there that, and we're working to test and validate those and to bring those to market. So again, at the end of the day, you want to improve the costs, make sure you're able to treat a certain water without having competing contaminants consume your media, and then just have a lower life cycle cost. And then I mentioned this earlier, but it's just continuing to ease that design buy startup process. So making sure that when a customer in a municipality, an engineering firm engage with us, that we're making it a smooth process from the beginning all the way to the end to work with us to deploy, treatment solutions for their water.
So let's say I'm a municipality or utility out there that wants to get started and wants to hear more, not just about AqueoUS Vets, but also about the contaminants they're faced against, some direction, some instruction, just some help, looking for a partner to kind of help walk them through this. Where would you send them? Where should they go for sort of that first dose of information as to what to do first or next?
Yeah, no, it's a good question. I mean, obviously, AqueoUSVets.com is a place you could reach out to us. We can provide information. Our information is also on Water Online as well, so you can find that information there. A lot of the most municipalities have a relationship with their local consulting engineering firms. Most of the big and local firms are already kind of well versed in this and as well, and they can also help the utility kind of look through options and work with companies like us to help put a pathway together to get there. And our pathway to compliance, let's call it. It takes a village, and there's a lot of folks that are involved in that process, and it gets to the local consulting communities and then manufacturers like AqueoUS Vets that can help support that.
Well, you heard it here first, folks. So if you remember about 5 or 6 years ago in an area close to the Water Online headquarters, there was a PFAS incident that had to do with a Air Force and a shutdown Air Force base. And it was a big thing, and there wasn't a lot of direction back then. We're talking about 2018, 2019. We've come a long way as an industry and as a market in terms of developing plans and strategies to help you deal with the contaminants that you're faced with in this ever-changing, ever-evolving world of regulation, limits, things like that. You need help. You need some direction. And AqueoUS Vets has positioned itself as a trusted partner on this journey. So for all of you out there, we want to thank you for joining us here on the Water Online Show today. Paris, I want to thank you for joining us as well. I can't thank you enough. I know that time with Paris Neofotistos is very, very tough to get, but you gave our audience exactly the kind of direction they needed. So thank you for joining us today.
Yeah, and thanks for having me, Travis. Appreciate it.
And for all of you out there, the Water Online community, we wish you well. Hope you have a great rest of your day, and we can't wait to welcome you back here on the Water Online Show next time.